Joining me now, Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, one of the House Republicans, requesting the report. If that is not accurate, those officers, those Border Patrol agents, Congressman, on horseback, deserve exoneration and an apology from Joe Biden. So where's the report?
Well, listen, Dagan, you're absolutely right. We don't know where the report is, but I can say this at this point. I think we can say this. The only thing that was whipped and abused was the truth and the reputation of the Border Patrol and these fine agents who were ordered by the secretary to go there. And so there need to be, President Biden's absolutely right. There needs to be consequences. But I suspect the reason we don't have the report is as he's going to suffer the consequences. Like you said, he owes them an apology, and he owes the rest of the country an apology. And of course, not he alone. There are many representatives in Congress that said many things that were completely false about this and disparaged the Border Patrol agents for doing their job. Some of them I can't repeat because it's a family show, and that's why we need to see the report. And I suspect that's why we haven't seen the report.
Now, just to quote Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, he promised to, this is in September, he promised to get to the bottom of this in, quote, days, not weeks. And as you said, that was more than 4 months ago. What do you know? What have you heard maybe from anonymous people within the department about what's really going on?
Well, we think that the report is done. We suspect from the things that we've heard that the report is done, and they're hoping to just sit on it and hope that this goes away, which is why we have proactively, especially members in the Freedom Caucus, taken the stance that we're not going to let you just, let it fade away into the distance in our memories. We want accountability here. We want to know what the report says. And look, if the report says somebody did something wrong, then so be it. But we need to see the report. There needs to be accountability wherever it lies. And that includes in case it is the case with the President of the United States and representatives in the Senate and the House of Representatives that disparage those agents and the good reputation of the Border Patrol.
Indeed, I'll just point out these are men who work in grueling jobs. They're overwhelmed. Yes. They're out there serving our country, and that's how they're treated by the commander-in-chief. Disparaged when the photographer who took those photos, and talk to anybody who has ridden a horse Western style, those are split reins, and the photographer himself said that it debunked this narrative that these migrants were being whipped. But the president, yet, again, it would go along with the American people who don't like him, who find him divisive, for him to stand up there and admit fault and apologize to these Border Patrol agents.
You're absolutely right, Dagan. This is an opportunity for the President of the United States to bring the country together. We all make mistakes. This is a gross violation, obviously, but admitting you've made mistakes is a way to kind of clear your soul. And this is a way the president could bring the country back together. I hope he does it. We want to see the report. There needs to be accountability, but accountability doesn't just stop at the little worker bee at the bottom. Accountability has to go right to the top. And if it includes the president, then so be it.
It also goes to the overall treatment of those men and women in uniform, whether they're working along the Border Patrol, whether they're working for a police department, even a fire department, where these people in power do not stand up for the rule of law and do not stand up for those people who are trying to protect this country and its citizens.
But Dagan, you're absolutely right. The Freedom Caucus just held an unsanctioned border hearing, listening to all the things that are happening at the border. How awful is it that these Border Patrol agents doing their duty, ordered there by the secretary to be there on their horses, protecting our border, while the administration is violating the very law that they're sworn to protect, and yet they're berating and disparaging the good reputation of these officials, these officers out there, risking their lives and to protect the rest of the country. It is unacceptable. We expect our leaders to stand with the people that are enforcing our laws. That's where the executive branch, that's why it exists, to enforce the laws. And to have the president disavow these Border Patrol agents is completely unacceptable. An apology is the minimum.
Congressman, have you spoken to any of these agents or their families at all?
We have not spoken to them. I imagine they probably want to remain out of it, at least till the investigation is
Right.
over and made public for obvious reason. We can understand that, but we're pretty sure we know what the investigation is going to yield.
Is there any opportunity for any Republican member of Congress to grill Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, about this very thing, like an upcoming hearing? Because he made those comments about, we're getting to the bottom of this in days, in front of a congressional hearing or a committee.
Right. The reason we held this hearing, this unsanctioned hearing today, is because the administration and Speaker Pelosi refuses to bring Secretary Mayorkas back in because they don't want to discuss the border issue. It's on fire, nearly 2 million illegal crossings just this year, record level. I don't know that there's anything on the schedule, and I suspect that this is only going to make that less likely that the secretary is going to appear.
And fentanyl deaths, now the #1 cause of death among young adults. Fentanyl that's coming across the border from Mexico. So, and I said this earlier, but maybe those Democrats could start going to some funerals for people who are dying from fentanyl poisoning. The families would appreciate that. Pennsylvania Congressman, good to see you. Scott Perry,
God bless you. Good to see you,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.